Hello, hello. How
Hello.
are how are all? Whoops, Cherie disappeared on us again. Hello, Alice. Hello, Susan. Cherie will probably be back with us in just a minute. I might have a message here. Oh, yeah, she got kicked out. She'll be right back though.
Hey,
Uh,
Rhonda.
oh, you can't. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, I just want to thank you guys for joining me again and for you know, being willing to come back and listen to what should have been the major part of my presentation on Sunday, but it's okay. It's gonna be just as good. So what we're gonna do this evening is I'm gonna play this presentation. It's about 30 or so minutes. Hopefully you will maybe learn some things or some things maybe you didn't know about, or maybe things that you do know that are um, that can add to some of the things that I have in there. And um, and then after that, we're going to chat for about a few minutes, 20 or 30 minutes or so on the panel. And at the end, just before I wrap up, before I end, I will announce what the contest will be to get your mask, your free mask. Remember, there's 5 free masks. So listen and pay attention to links and things like that are going to be dropped, and answer the question that I asked. And well, it won't be asked tonight; it'll be done tomorrow. But you'll see later that how it's going to work and how you'll get a mask. I bought an extra mask because I have to give one to somebody who was in my live Sunday that I haven't spoken to in a very, very long time, who goes way, way back to the Hangouts days, and the Wrecking Crew Discord days. So I'm buying an extra mask so that I can give one to that person. That person also joined my Discord, our Discord, that same day during our presentation. So I'm buying an extra mask to give to that person. So maybe he'll be here again tonight. We'll see. But without further ado, I want to welcome Alice and Cherie's back in, and Susan. Thank you for coming. I think Jack's coming in a little bit later. I will go ahead and start this presentation, and I really hope that everyone enjoys it. Sorry, just 1 second. I want to make sure I get all my windows right where I want them. Okay, there we go. Oh, and I'm not muted on YouTube. That'll help too. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Atlanta's Olympic Stadium for the opening ceremony of these Centennial Olympic Games.
In the early morning of July 27, 1996, more than 100 people were injured and one killed by a bomb blast at Atlanta's Centennial Olympic Park.
I remember very distinctly as the light came up, I started meeting some of the people around in the area. And one of the people on the scene was Richard Jewell.
Jewell, a former sheriff's deputy, had discovered the bomb in a backpack and helped clear the area before the explosion. He was hailed a hero.
And I just hope that we catch the people that did it.
Following the bombing, there were a lot of suspects, but it wasn't too far into the investigation where Richard Jewell's name started surfacing.
It was a lot of pressure to resolve the case very quickly.
The assumption was that everyone would keep everything confidential because of the importance of the investigation. People like to talk.
An unidentified law enforcement source leaked Jewell's name to Ron Martz's reporting partner, Kathy Scruggs.
It was important for us as the hometown paper to try to verify as soon as possible and put that information out on the street.
Word quickly reached investigators.
It sped up the timetable in the investigation on what the investigators wanted to do to try to get to Richard Jewell before his name was all over creation.
So when two agents went to talk to Jewell and he expressed concerns about being interviewed on videotape, they told him it would be used in a training film for first responders. He then agreed to come to Atlanta's FBI office.
I don't think they were very far into the interview when I received a phone call from the director. And the director said, I want you to stop the interview to warn him of his rights. What now? I instructed the assistant special agent in charge to knock on the door.
Alexander later saw on videotape what happened next.
The investigation was going along as if it was a training video for a first responder. At a point, the investigators just said, we want to make this as realistic as possible, or something to that effect. We're even going to read you the Miranda rights. And as they start, the camera's on Richard Jewell, and his eyes widen a little bit. He's saying, wait a minute, am I a suspect?
FBI has a suspect. Read all about it.
The news had already hit the streets when from inside the FBI office, Jewell called a friend who was a lawyer.
I asked him if he'd read the newspaper. He said no, he hadn't, so I read him the headline. And I said, man, they think you did it. Asked him if he was under arrest, and they said no, he was not. And I said, great, then he's leaving.
I remember saying to my editor, this man's life will never be the same, simply because he suddenly was in the eye of this media storm.
Are they letting you go to work? They're letting you go to work. You're free to go. Did they tell you now not to leave town? No. Can you categorically say that you did not do this? I did not do it. Categorically. Yes.
Television cameras surrounded Jewell's apartment as federal agents searched for evidence.
It created a circus environment.
Some of the coverage, while acknowledging that Jewell was only under investigation, still cast him in the worst possible light.
The hero may be a possible villain.
You get a different picture of Richard Jewell in these North Georgia mountains. He lived alone in this rented home with his Doberman dogs, most days with the blinds drawn.
But behind the scenes, a few investigators had doubts.
I had one of my agents, and I believe an FBI agent, watch the interviews in detail. And my agent came to me, and the first thing he said was, this guy didn't do it. It made him a victim. It didn't make us look very good either.
2 months after Jewell was identified, he was offered a deal. If he answered investigators' questions, he could be cleared.
Once Richard Jewell did come in, it became very apparent over the next few weeks there's no reason to charge him.
Richard Jewell finally got what he's been waiting for. A hand-delivered letter from the Justice Department says, based on the evidence developed to date, Jewell is not considered a target of the federal investigation.
After he was cleared of suspicion, several FBI agents were reprimanded, including the agent who read Jewell his Miranda rights during the ruse. Jewell pursued legal action against several news organizations, citing, among other things, a column that implied a comparison between Jewell and a convicted murderer, and another that called him a fat, failed former sheriff's deputy.
Here's Richard Jewell, the 114th victim of the Atlanta Olympic bomb.
This is the first time I have ever asked you to turn your cameras on me. For 88 days, I lived a nightmare. For 88 days, my mother lived a nightmare too. and it's rushed for the headline that the hero was the bomber. The media cared nothing for my feelings as a human being.
NBC, CNN, and the New York Post were among those which settled for undisclosed sums. But the Atlanta Journal-Constitution fought the case for 15 years and won.
There's no way that anybody can convince me that we libeled Richard Jewell. The information we printed was that he was the focus of the investigation. He was the focus of the investigation. Am I sorry for what happened to Richard Jewell? Yes, I'm sorry for what happened to Richard Jewell, but I don't feel responsible for what happened to him.
Richard Jewell, who went through the media pylon.
The obvious lesson learned from Richard Jewell is avoid identifying people as a suspect if there's not really good reason to do so, because it can lead to just what happened in Richard Jewell's case, the identification of someone who not only was innocent, but was a hero.
As it turned out, the true perpetrator of the Olympic bombing remained active. He would go on to bomb 2 abortion clinics and a gay nightclub in the years following Centennial Olympic Park. Nearly a decade after the Olympic bombing, Rudolph pled guilty in an Atlanta courthouse. Richard Jewell was there. Jewell eventually found work as a sheriff's deputy in Georgia. He died in 2007 due to complications brought on by diabetes. He was 44 years old.
People to this day think that he was arrested. He was never arrested. He had nothing to do with it. Is that the implication that you should get from responsible reporting?
He'll kill again. Why do you say that?
I think that's his personality.
And Peterson says framing Stephen Avery would be much too difficult.
If we wanted to eliminate Steve, it would have been a whole lot easier to eliminate Steve than it would be to frame Steve. You know.
What do you mean by eliminate?
If we wanted him out of the picture, like in prison, or if you wanted him killed, you know, it would have been much easier just to kill him.
Well, that 16-year-old nephew of Stephen Avery is held here in the Sheboygan County Jail tonight ahead of that court appearance tomorrow morning. He's accused of the rape and murder of Teresa Halbach and accused of taking part in the crimes just as much as Stephen Avery himself. Shortly after the disappearance of Teresa Hallbach on Halloween last year, her remains were found on the Avery salvage yard property near Manitowoc. A few days later, Stephen Avery was arrested, but investigators stayed on the case, believing there was more to the story. This week, they say, they discovered it.
If you knew Ms. Hallbach before she was killed, it's our suggestion, both the sheriff and myself, that you not listen to this press conference.
In detailing the charges against Avery's nephew, 16-year-old Brendan Dassey, Calumet County DA Ken Kratz could barely contain his disgust as he tells about how the boy discovered his uncle raping Teresa Hallbach in his trailer.
Teresa Hallbach is begging Brendan for her life. The evidence that we've uncovered establishes that Stephen Avery at this point invites his 16-year-old nephew to sexually assault this woman, and he's had bound to the bed.
But instead of running for help, prosecutors say Brendan joined in.
After the sexual assault is completed, Stephen Avery tells Brendan what a good job he did. Takes Brendan into the other room and now describes for Brendan his intent to murder Teresa Hallbach.
Prosecutors say the two killed her together, stabbing and strangling her, then burning the body in a failed effort to conceal the crimes.
I hope as we sit here today and as this case proceeds, those individuals that knew Teresa will remember this extraordinary young woman and the joy that she brought to all of those around her.
Well, investigators say that new evidence came to light this week when they re-interviewed Dassey. They say that they talked to him when Hallbach disappeared, and his answers then and now just didn't add up.
Do you think your client, Brandon Dassey, was involved in this murder?
That's something I can't comment on. It'd be contrary to a bunch of ethical rules for attorneys.
The reason I ask that is because you did take aggressive steps to get him to sign a confession through your private investigator, Mr. O'Kelly. So given that he was so adamant to get Brandon to sign that confession, drawings and all showing piece by piece how this murder went down, I asked that question because it seems like that's what you were gunning for.
The O'Kelly interview was actually strictly for our internal use. It was never turned over to the state.
What was the point, though, especially if you wanted it confidential, of getting a confession from your client that way in the first place?
Well, that was just, I said, a piece of paper for our internal use.
Well, but I don't understand that. You already had a confession from the police that the judge said would be admissible. So why would you need
it was for our internal, it wasn't for use at trial.
Well, if it was for internal use, why did Mr. O'Kelly literally, before the ink was dry, get on a cell phone, call you, say it went quite well, and then you arranged to have him talk to a police detective, in fact, several, the very next day?
Oh, sure. That was, we wanted to know that we wouldn't be wasting the police's time.
If it was just for your internal use, why would Mr. O'Kelly immediately call you, say, we just got him to cleanly confess, now let's arrange the next day for a meeting with the police department where he can sit down, where you tell them, go interview him again on a Saturday morning and you'll get what you're asking for? Why would he do that?
O'Kelly was a bit of a loose cannon, but I guess the idea was to see if what Dassey was telling us is something he'd also tell the police. Sometimes people will tell people different things.
The private investigator got him to draw in gory detail everything that happened and sign a confession, and then immediately he calls you, and you guys arrange for him to sit down and not only talk to the police, but do it without you being present. I don't understand.
That was a difficult issue. He called me at 8:45 p.m. on a Friday. I had Army Reserve duty the next day, that weekend.
Okay.
In Milwaukee. It was going to be my last drill. So physically, I couldn't get down there.
So why not delay the police interview then?
The 2020 in hindsight, I would have.
I still don't quite understand why you would let the police interview
Kelly
him.
was there to supposedly was going to notify me if there were any problems. He didn't.
Yeah, but you're the lawyer, Mr. Kaczynski. You're the lawyer. I mean,
Correct.
he's not a lawyer. You're supposedly representing this kid. Why did you?
Actually, Dassey got on the phone and said, you know, it's okay to do it without you being there. Although
he has a 70, he has a 70 IQ, and he's like 16-year-old. One more time, why did you give the police a heads up to interview your client when you weren't going to be there under any circumstances? Why would you want your client to talk to the police and let them grill him like a cheeseburger?
Well, our thought was at this moment in time that it would be best that he talked to them before he was influenced to the contrary by his relatives.
And to keep confessing.
Well, say whatever he's going to say, so we knew what would happen if he was called as a witness at Avery's trial.
A group of about 100 men and women stood outside the Oklahoma County District Courthouse Tuesday morning to protest the former officer Daniel Ken Holtzclaw. Holtzclaw is accused of sexually abusing 13 black women while a police officer.
We want life! We believe you! We believe you! We believe you! We believe you! We want life! We want life! I am hurt!
The protesters' chanting could be heard on the second floor of the courthouse. The judge told the jury they were to disregard anything that is yelled outside. Holtzclaw is charged with 36 counts, including 6 counts of first-degree rape. The sexual abuse alleged occurred between December of 2013 and June of 2014. Holtzclaw has denied the accusations. Stay with newsok.com for more information surrounding the case.
Yeah, Jessica, these protesters tell me they were out here today to support the victims. And as this trial wraps up its second full week, they say that their crowds have gotten even bigger. Nearly 100 protesters welcomed the morning crowd at the Oklahoma County Courthouse with signs calling for fairness. The group, OKC Artists for Justice, circled the building all morning to support the alleged victims in the Daniel Holtzclaw trial.
We want it in the forefront of people's minds.
Holtzclaw, a former police officer, is charged with sexually assaulting 13 women while on duty. Organizers of the protest believe throughout the trial, many of the victims' stories have been discounted because of their past criminal history.
A woman's character cannot be on trial when the evidence clearly shows that they were being stalked and they were being victimized.
The protesters could be heard inside the courtroom. At one point, the judge even told the jurors to ignore it. The group telling me their protest today was the biggest and most diverse yet.
It's not just about the Black community. It's not just about the east side of Oklahoma City. Oklahomans have to stand up and say, we're not going to stand for this.
The OKC Artists for Justice says they are planning a candlelight vigil for those victims. They said that is still in the early stages, and they will announce when that is on their Facebook page. Reporting live tonight in downtown Oklahoma City, Jonathan Cooper, KOCO 5 News.
Today, OKC Artists for Justice are out here protesting the bail hearing for Daniel Holtzclaw. We believe with 26 counts of sexual assault, which are violent assaults, that he should be remanded. He should not be free from bail. He has also violated his condition for bail. And for most people, particularly of color, and also in poverty areas, we violate our house monitors, we are remanded immediately. We demand that he be put in jail until his trial. He is a danger to our community. He is a danger to the full community of Oklahoma City, for he is a sexual predator per the counts against him. We want justice for the ladies on the east side of Oklahoma City. We want them not to be maligned or demeaned in any way because they are victims, and we want him held accountable.
It was the courtroom collapse that went viral.
Mr. Holtzclaw, if you and your attorneys just come forward.
The whole country watching.
And then Holtzclaw being able to keep the pressure on.
A college football standout, a bodybuilder, a tough guy cop begging for his life.
I feel like it's all a movie and we're just going to wake up and it's going to be over.
His girlfriend standing by him.
Did you ever have doubt in your mind? Like maybe I'd missed something?
His parents going through their savings to save him.
What's it like watching your son be portrayed as a monster, a predator?
It's very hard. And he's not the villain that they portrayed him as.
But a dogged detective, his very own colleague, who interrogates him.
Nothing sexual went on.
Nothing sexual.
Gathering physical evidence in that tiny room to convict him. Tonight on 2020, we're taking you inside the case that made national headlines.
Coming to us from Oklahoma.
A former police officer,
Daniel Holtzclaw.
Women terrorized during late-night traffic stops.
She begged him, please don't do this. Are you going to kill me?
Attacks nobody would report.
This is the face of courage.
Except one fearless grandmother.
He just picked the wrong lady to stop that night.
13 accusers in all, coming out of the shadows. But will a jury buy what they're saying?
How difficult is it to mount a case where you have witnesses showing up high on PCP?
The verdict is coming down.
Here's what's going on right now. About 100 people cramming, elbowing, and pushing their way into the courtroom.
He never spoke in court, but he's talking now to 2020. What the dash cam never saw.
What's your reaction to the verdict?
Well, justice was done today, and a criminal wearing a uniform is going to prison now.
Obviously, 18 of the counts, you didn't get a guilty verdict. What do you attribute that to? Some of the victims obviously there weren't convictions for some of the victims.
Sure. Well, in any given case, in any given trial, jurors are tasked with the responsibility of of determining credibility and looking to determine if we've proven beyond a reasonable doubt every element of the crime. And obviously, in those counts, whether or not guilty verdicts came back, they determined that we didn't prove those cases beyond a reasonable doubt. Doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't believe the victims. It may mean that we didn't meet our burden in those counts. I want that to be clear. It doesn't mean that they didn't believe the victims.
David, there's a range of punishment. Are you going to ask for some consecutive, or any thought to that, or what?
Yeah, we want to assure this community that the Oklahoma City Police Department did the right thing, the Oklahoma County DA's office did the right thing, the jury did the right thing, and we're going to ask the judge to make sure that this defendant never sees a light of day, and we're going to ask him to run consecutive every count.
I know that there was some irritation on the prosecution part. You guys really haven't addressed it because the trial was going on, that you guys were responsible for an all-white jury, and that's just not the case.
No, it's not the case. As a matter of fact, we wanted a good cross-section of our community, and we purposefully did not kick anyone of color off the jury. Felt that everyone would have been an appropriate juror in this case, and the defense they were the team responsible for kicking the African Americans off the jury. And as a matter of fact, we objected to that, hoping we would have a good cross-section of the community, and that objection was overruled.
There were some jurors that were lying, in this case. Is that something that you have seen before?
Oh yeah, often. Let me tell you, we pull 12 people off the street who don't experience what police officers and district attorneys experience every single day in this courthouse. What we do is emotional because we're dealing with human beings. And we ask 12 normal citizens to come in and do the most difficult thing they'll ever do in their life, very likely. So I would wonder what was wrong with them if they weren't emotional or shedding tears, frankly, because these are human beings judging other human beings, and it's not easy.
Do you expect an appeal?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, there's an appeal in every conviction. And in a case like this, there's going to be appeals. But this was a well-investigated case, a well-prosecuted case. The judge, we believe, ruled on both sides of the issues and did it fairly. So we're not concerned about any reversal.
Thank you, sir.
In terms of the deliberations, obviously, as they stretched into the fourth day, did you remain confident in your case?
We were confident in the investigation. First of all, we were confident in the case that was presented to this jury, and realized that when you have a number of victims and a number of counts, that if you have a jury that's actually doing its job, it's going to take them a while to get through it, because they have to look at each and every individual victim, each and every individual count, and go through each and every element in those counts. So if they're doing their job, I can't see how they would have spent much less time than what it took them to get to a verdict in this case. Very meticulous jury. They worked very hard. I appreciate their duty and their service to this community.
What would you say to members of the African American community who may be distrustful of police?
Well, I'll tell you, I hope they understand that the Oklahoma City Police Department and members of the law enforcement community in this county and the Oklahoma County DA's office will stand up for any person. Any person. I don't care what they look like, where they go to church, what God they worship, or how much money they make. We stand up for people in this community. The Oklahoma City Police Department proved that, and the Oklahoma County DA's office proved that. And I'll tell you, my experience in this county as a whole, that's the way we treat people in this county, across the board. And so the African American community, I'll say this to them as well. I appreciate you trusting us and standing down and making sure nothing foolish happened during the investigation of this case and during the trial of this case. You trusted us, and we appreciate that. The Oklahoma City Police Department did the right thing, and so did we, and you trusted us to do it, and I hope you know that we will continue to do that.
Thanks, David.
All right, thank you.
Turmoil at the Oklahoma County Courthouse after a judge is suspended and reportedly resigns.
Judge Tim Henderson's resignation comes after 3 female attorneys accuse him of sexual misconduct. News 9's crime tracker Jennifer Pierce is live in the newsroom with more. Jen?
Amanda, I'm told Judge Tim Henderson will have to turn in his official resignation to the governor's office. Now, according to NonDoc, the Oklahoma County DA is investigating accusations of sexual assault and misconduct.
I think it's like the worst kept secret in the Oklahoma County Courthouse.
Attorney Irvin Box was not surprised when news came out that Judge Tim Henderson abruptly resigned. Box says 3 female attorneys in the district attorney's office have come forward accusing Henderson of sexual misconduct.
There were some rumors these were going on for like 2 to 3 years ago.
These are the 2 orders filed on Friday by Judge Ray Elliott, suspending Henderson from overseeing court dockets and his supervisor role. Judge Henderson has been an Oklahoma County District Judge since 2012 and served as the judge over the state's multi-county grand jury. He's presided over several high-profile criminal cases, including convicted serial rapist and former Oklahoma City police officer Daniel Holtzclaw. Box believes other convictions made in Henderson's courtroom involving any of the alleged female victims will now come into question.
I think every case that they were the district attorney in a case down there, I think should be reversed and sent back to where we have a fair and impartial judge and we have district attorneys that aren't under the influence of the judge himself.
And at last check, the governor's office has not received Henderson's resignation letter. Reporting live in the newsroom, Jennifer Pierce, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Well, well, well. Hopefully that was semi-entertaining or informative. I think it was very, very sad. All of the cases are incredibly sad and heartbreaking.
But look what the media did, as we talked about. We've talked about so many times.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to let the 4 of you kind of talk amongst yourself. I'll just let you guys talk about things that you've seen in the media, or before I do that, I did want to share really quick because I just barely learned of this a little while ago. So I just thought, well, the heck, I'll just share it for whatever. I'm sure everybody else has already seen it, but I found this little nugget that everyone else was, I guess, talking about. Jack, you want to talk about what that's all about really quick?
Well, yeah, this is directly from the motion that KZ filed with Thomas Sawinski's affidavit. And then the state replied and basically attacked him, and tried to say that, she didn't do any research, that she didn't vet this guy out, made all kinds of accusations against her and against him as well. And I guess under the rules of procedure, and I'm not a lawyer, I only pretend to be one, but under the rules of procedure, she is allowed to address those specific things that they said, and she did. She provided the background and what they had done. She was very clear in that. She didn't add anything new that they didn't bring up. So I guess under the rules of procedure, she's allowed to do that. Now, they replied and said that, she's barred from doing that. She's procedurally barred, but that's not true, apparently. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just basing this on what I've read, what Tracy Strunsey has said. And now, so they filed a reply. I haven't read it yet, but she is allowed to respond to whatever they said. So it's not over.
So yeah, definitely not over. I think we have a long way to go, but I think it's going to explode. I think the one corner of the house of cards has been tipped a little bit. So I feel really confident that it's about to start crumbling.
Well, I would like to see, from my side of it, just as a person that's been after this for a long time, I would really like to see a connection of a phone call, any phone record that he made back in November of 2005 to the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. Anything that would connect him. If that happens, they've got problems. They've got big problems because they're saying, "Oh, that call doesn't exist." Well, okay. Let's see if it does or not. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. I think that's kind of how all of us are feeling about now. Okay, well, thanks for sharing, sharing what you know or what you understand of it. We appreciate that. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just let the four of you kind of discuss things in the media, things that you've seen, things that have upset you particularly. I know Jack and I watched at different times. We watched Richard Jewell thing on Netflix. You guys, I can't. It's one of the series that I highly recommend. I think
Absolutely.
it was I think maybe 8 episodes, Jack, or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
Yeah.
You really need to watch it. It's just absolute. Yeah, Susan's watched it too. It's
Yeah.
absolutely mind bending what they did to him.
Poor man. It was heartbreaking. All right, well, you guys take it away. I'm just going to listen and.
It was kind of like the guy with the Cecil Hotel.
Yes.
Yeah, because that guy got he got vilified too. Yeah.
And all he did was stay in the hotel a couple of nights or something like that. But because he did videos wearing face paint and a mask, and there was like bones and crosses and things like that, they were saying that it was like satanic videos and everything like that. And he got trolled for it left, right, and centre. He got hunted down. I'm sure there was people outside his house, things like that. I mean, it's disgusting.
And he was actually out of the country at the time.
So he couldn't have done it.
There, right. Just crazy.
But anytime you get a high profile case that you almost always have this division. One side says, "Oh my God, that person did it," then the other side says, "Oh, no way, that person, there's just no way." So then you get these sharp dividing lines. But the media, I talked to Rhonda quite a bit about. We talked about presentations and so forth, and this idea, something I think she brought up, that this idea of the media, it is true. I didn't really notice it so much, back years ago. I guess me and Susan are the elders of the class, but I'm sure that Susan has seen it too. Let's just say back in the 70s and 80s, I remember it well. Most of these major organizations, these news reporting organizations, I'm not saying that they were correct then. I'm just saying back then, it's not like it is now. They would vet a report. They would generally get 2, if not 3 sources to make sure they were correct before they would even report it, on their news broadcast.
Yeah.
It was rare to see live news break into normal programming, and bam, this major news story. Rare. And if it did, you knew something really screwy had happened. It's not like that now.
No, but what pisses me off about it is, no matter whether it's US papers or whether it's the UK media or Australia or whatever, they always give it we've got a right to freedom of speech. And it's like, well, no, wait a fucking minute. If I came and called you all the names under the sun and a murderer and everything like that, you could take me to court for slander. But if you say the same about me and you accuse me of something and ruin my life, then I'm not allowed to sue you because you're allowed to say what you want because of the freedom of speech. Bollocks! They've got to be held accountable. And it's
Yeah, that dividing line is, people want to know, especially if there's a danger to their community. I get that. At the same time, if they're not correct, the media has the ability to just absolutely direct people. We've seen it. Just
if they have somebody in custody, they are not a danger to the community.
That's right.
They're behind bars. And I think they shouldn't, I don't think their name should be put out there. I don't know.
I mean, I'm like you, Susan. I believe in the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, but there has to be a responsibility along with it. It's like anything else. It's not just like, hey, this is you're withholding my right to tell a story. But if their story's not right, it's not, and they're just doing it because they're wanting to make money. I get that. I think we all do. But there was this big change in the 80s. These places saw that, things like 60 Minutes was a big seller. People loved it. They revealed these different things, and it became an industry. It became a real cottage industry, and it blew up. It literally blew up into the 24-hour news cycle we have now. And so much of it is just regurgitated. They just say it over and ad nauseum. I can't watch it anymore. I just can't watch it.
I don't. I stopped.
I mean, here in the UK, the press are bad. I mean, you notice that. I mean, just look at the headlines that they did for Luke Mitchell, who was a 14-year-old child at the time.
Outrageous.
But they called him the son of the what was it? The demon spawn. And that was a 14-year-old child. But here in the UK, they're really bad that way with the royal family. The royal family can't do nothing without somebody trying to report it. And I mean, one of the biggest instances is Diana. And I mean, that wasn't just the UK media, that was media all over the world. But the worst was the UK.
I remember that. That, Alice.
Yeah, I mean, that woman could not blow her nose and say it was blue and the press would say it was green. You know what I mean?
I remember, she couldn't do anything at all.
No. And the same sort of thing has happened with Meghan and Harry. And I mean, a lot of people don't agree with that. You know what I mean? But I live here and I seen the headlines. That woman was vilified like Diana, maybe even worse, adding because she's from a mixed race background. And I mean, that's what they would report on. They wouldn't say, they would say Meghan the actress, but they wouldn't just leave it at that. It was Meghan, the mixed race American divorcee actress.
Make a dig out of it. Dig at her.
Yeah, they had to put in every single thing. The fact that she was mixed race, the fact that she was an actress, the fact that she'd been divorced already, and all that. And I mean, and poor Diana, I mean, she couldn't move, and especially when her and Charles split up, it was worse. I mean, and she didn't have as much security as what she had. They cornered her in airports and outside her own house and everything like that. And when it came to Luke Mitchell as well, they camped outside his door with their flask of tea and their sandwiches and everything like that, And it's just that the media have got a lot to answer for.
Well, I just think that there has to be some kind of rules of conduct. It's kind of like they're allowed to do whatever, and then they have to go so far to cross that line before the authorities will interfere. It's wrong.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, I mean, there there was
Go
an
ahead.
incident here with Cliff Richard, and he got accused of things that there's just no way Cliff Richard would have ever have done. And the BBC, I'm sure it was the BBC, which is one of our main sort of stream news broadcasts, is the BBC. They were flying over his house and everything. They specifically got a helicopter and they were flying over his house, and they plastered it all over the papers. It was on every news channel and everything like that. And the allegations were false.
Can you imagine trying to live your life? You would literally have to bubble yourself up so badly. That's not living at all. It's like being in, it's worse than being in prison.
They showed the police searching his house. They showed them constantly showing the police walking in and out of the house and taking bags out of the house and things like that. I mean, the police were trying to be discreet and have it in, you know, like a black bag. So, like, there was nothing, it was the clear bags, it was like black bags. But still, they were flying above his house. And there was no other reports or anything like that. It was just this one guy. And it turned out that the allegations were false. And
Right.
he sued the papers. He did. He sued the papers, and he actually won that case. But he is only one of a lot of people that have tried to sue the media and won their case. Majority of the time, the media win it because of their freedom of speech.
Right. Yeah. Those are factors that seem to weigh in their favor constantly. You know, I think about watching After Making Murder, and you know, we were all scrambling and digging, and there were news reports, and I remember one specifically, and it was pretty early on. The cops had taken over the salvage yard, and they had found blood, and I don't remember where it was, but you know, it was a large lot, and they found spots of blood here and there. But the reporter, of course, in this salacious report, it was all, you know, against Avery. The police said, the investigator said they have found blood, you know, here, wherever it was at, in the Avery salvage yard, and the entire focus was, of course, was to make it against Avery. Of course, they came to find out it wasn't Teresa's blood. So, you know, they're coloring the story right away. This was early.
And people are so quick to jump to assumptions, conclusions that just have no truth behind them.
I know a lot of people here aren't Reddit people, and I get that, but I have been for a long time. And I know everyone probably remembers the Boston Marathon bombings. I guess it was in 2013, if I remember my year correctly. And this was, you know, on Reddit. I don't remember which particular sub it was. I don't know if it was the Boston sub or whichever one. The thousands and thousands of people were on it, and they were reporting. They would. Well, it was even actually worse than reporting a tip. Of course, they were trying to find who did it. But what some people did is that maybe they were reporting to police and on Reddit live people's real names, their address, their phone number, because they didn't like them. And there were several people that weren't connected with it at all that got attacked because, you know, they were after these people for setting off these damn bombs that, you know, they hurt and killed people. It was crazy. And this is how dangerous it is once you expose somebody like that to, you say they've done something so damning, and then all of a sudden people are hurt, killed, or I don't think anybody was killed, but you know, it led to Reddit tightening the screws down. You can't do that. You know, you're doxing people. You're telling about their real name, and you put them in a real liable. There may have been lawsuits against them. I don't really know, but this is how dangerous it is.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, what annoys me the most is the media and everything. I mean, even Daniel's case. I seen Daniel's case on my mainstream media. You know, so it wasn't just being shown in America, or that we actually seen it on our TV. We get main news broadcasts at 6 o'clock in the evening and at 10 o'clock at night. And the one at 10 o'clock at night is mostly ones that they do for other parts of the world and things like that as well. And I remember seeing Daniel on my news channel. And I mean, I'm sure I sent Rhonda some newspaper clippings of the tabloids that here as well. And some of them were okay, some of them were just former Oklahoma police officer arrested on sexual assaults. But then there was some that really went in there and was like, he's a rapist and he pried on these women and things like that, you know. So that was even gone on in my media about something that happened in America. And I'm sure it was the same with Stephen, but it was more so when Stephen got exonerated in 2003, because I remember him seeing him walking out the prison with his long beard and his baldy head, and being on the news holding the baby, and somebody asked him who's the baby, even though I seen that in I seen that on my TV as well through our media. So some things like that do still come across the pond, and our papers can be just as bad as what they are over there.
Absolutely. Beverly was mentioning, she said, watch Wag the Dog. You'll see how the media controls crowds. It's an old movie with Dustin Hoffman. I'm not sure, and Robert De Niro. I don't think I've seen that one, actually.
It's old, but it's really good. I highly recommend it as well.
Oh, you've seen it too?
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. Well, I just know that I've seen it, in my lifetime, I've seen how the media has altered its approach to people. And of course, there's always been some aspect of control. And I don't want to offend anyone, and I don't say this in any offensive way. I just say it as truth, is how doctrine, church, and that's not the only aspect, but because, religion is so large throughout the world, no matter what people believe, doctrine has been used to control people, right? Am I wrong? Please tell me if I'm wrong.
No, it's definitely.
So this this formula that the media has, they understand, the National Enquirer, and I'm not sure what your rag magazines over on your side of the world is, Alice, but I'm sure you have the kind of same thing. You have these magazines that they report stuff that has an altered version of the truth.
Yeah.
And because it sells newspapers, even if it's just a rumor, they want to report that shit as truth, and it's not.
Yeah, that's our red top papers, as we call them, the red rag papers, and that's your the Sun, the Daily Record, and the Daily Mail, if I remember right.
Yeah, I remember those.
And then you've got the more, I mean, I say sophisticated papers, but it's like the giant papers that has all your financial stuff and everything like that, and the snobby papers, as I call them, because I would never buy them or read them or anything like that. And that's like your Telegraph. I think the Telegraph is like your Washington Post. The Telegraph and the Guardian and things like that. I mean, they can be okay with putting the facts out there, but like you're saying about the ones that just put out the nonsense and don't fact check and things like that, that's the red rag top ones, as we call them over here.
Yeah, they're just called rags or rag mags or something of that nature.
Yeah, it's wrong, and the fact, I mean, that even when the media is caught out on something and it can go to court and the person still loses, they still don't take any accountability, especially like the local ones who maybe print the name first or something like that, and they get away with it with saying, well, like he said with the Richard Jewell one, well, he was being looked at as a suspect. So that makes it all right to plaster his name all over the front page? I don't think so.
No, because that was a very polarizing moment for Americans. My God, the guy tried to help people, and he ended up getting vilified, all because of you remember that reporter that was in there. I know you guys, anyone's watched it. This reporter's making deals with these cops, however she can, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And this story gets leaked. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But I think back in relation, and this is about Stephen and Brendan's case. Think about the press conference on March 2nd, 2006, and we've all beat that one to death, but it's worth repeating that the excuse that Kratz gave for giving that press conference, there is a provision in that statute under publicity about giving negative publicity. The original statute doesn't allow for what he did at all, but there are, of course, exemptions to that. If you read, the full things that I can't remember what you call them now, but there are provisions underneath the original scope that says the state has the right to reply to specific things if a defendant is making claims and charges, which of course Avery was. He was saying he was framed, so forth and so on. However, that had nothing to do with Brendan. Brendan didn't make these claims, and he did not make this press conference until after they had Brendan out. As wrong as it was on the face of it, his excuse is even wrong. So I don't know if anyone had ever picked that up or not, but I thought about it. I was thinking about it last week or week before. He's really going after Avery after they arrested Brendan. But he did it so it could be, make this big news and be salacious and it absolutely tainted the jury pool. It absolutely did. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, what Kay's saying is the journalists don't want to lose their inside connection to knowing what is going on inside OCPD and the DA's office. They want to keep getting info from Prater. The more salacious, the better.
That's right.
That's completely true, because the same thing happened here with Luke, because the press were camping outside his door, but it got to a point that Luke's mum and that put up tarpaulin round so that they couldn't see everything that was going on. So when the police were searching the house, the tarpaulin and that was up. So the media couldn't really see. They could see bags and things like that, but they couldn't really see what else was there. But they were reporting on things like there was jars of pee found in his room and things like that, and the knife sheath and everything. How were they getting that information if it wasn't coming through the police? Because they weren't in the house searching the house. So how would they know what was in the house and what stuff the police was taking out the house?
Out the house. I like that.
I love your accent.
There's a moose loose about this house.
I tease Catnip on the because her accent. She says a boot instead of about. I tease her about it as often as I can.
That's what I normally say.
Just love Cat.
Boot and a boot.
out and about. It was like people were laughing last night on the open mic because I said Wendy's. You need to open your Wendy's.
I don't recall. So fortunately, here there are good journalists out there who have integrity, like John Ferrick. John Ferrick, he's an investigative reporter, and he is good. He does his homework. I'm not saying he's perfect, because he's not. And his job is to obviously sell papers. As a reporter, I get that. At the same time, he's really pretty good about checking his sources and making sure he's correct before he publishes something.
And like you're saying, that's what they all used to do.
You remember?
Yeah.
You remember?
Sure. That was, they put a lot of stock in that. That was, they cared about their integrity back then
and what got
their
reported
accuracy,
to the masses.
Right. And then it got bought out, I guess.
What they used to report, they used to care about their integrity and self-respect back in the day.
Yep.
Right.
Well, I think we've all probably seen the what's the guy on the HBO, John?
Oh, I love him. What's his name?
John Oliver? Is it not John Oliver? No.
He's great too.
On the what?
On HBO, he does it. He has
Jon
that,
Stewart. Jon Stewart.
Well, he's another one, but
Oh.
he's not on HBO. I can't remember the guy on HBO or his name, but he did a report on the media, and he showed, because a lot of these small local stations have been bought out by 3 or 4 conglomerates, and they hand scripts out to these reporters, these anchors, and they're forced to, if they want to work there, they're forced to read this script. And so he started out with one. He showed it. He started out with one station, then it split, and then it split, and then it split, and this screen eventually filled up with, I don't know how many hundreds of these different anchors repeating the exact same words.
Thing.
Yep. It's crazy.
Yep. It goes on the wire or whatever, and they.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
as Catnet says on All Crats, I gave a great deal of thought to the information I commented on, as my effort was not to limit details which might be shared, trying to spare the victim's family from having all of the details in the court complaint released. In other words, by commenting on some of the details in the complaint, I was hoping the media would not choose to release all the disturbing details. Bullshit, you didn't. That's exactly what you wanted, you motherfucker.
Absolute bullshit.
What a crock of shit. Oh my God.
Down to the sweat.
Well, yeah.
Oh, aye.
Bill Maher, yeah, that's a different show, but I'll find him. You guys are talking.
He's just, I mean, it's just disgusting, the shit that came out of that man's mouth. It wasn't just coming out of his arse, it was coming out of his mouth and all that day, because everything that he said about Brendan and that, if you're 15 or under, you should leave the room. What the hell? You know what I mean? And you're trying to tell me that you weren't trying to get the press to do disturbing details. As soon as you said, if you're 15 or under, get out of the room, the press's antennas and everything would have been up. Their ears would have been flattened the lot. You know what I mean? Oh, what's he going to say? What's he going to say?
Just the fact that none of that could be corroborated is just, I mean, he needs to be hung up by his thumbs, for fuck's sake.
They interrupted afternoon programming to show his press conference across the state of Wisconsin. He was seen everywhere there, and I'm sure some of the national ones probably picked it up as well. But I don't know. That show that I'm thinking about is called Last Week Tonight, with John Oliver. I was correct about the name.
John Oliver. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the
he's great.
British guy. He is. you know, he rubs a lot of people backwards with the way he reports stuff because he mixes comedy with the, you know, serious nature of what he's reporting. But I think it's great the way he presents it.
I agree.
So, you know, this very fact that the media, you know, we can move on to, you know, what KZ says. You know, she tweets a lot. She doesn't really speak so much to the camera, but she does tweet a lot. Or I say a lot. She tweets a lot at different times, and she does it for a reason. She wants to use that force that she knows is there, but I don't think she tries to really abuse it by getting in front of the camera and doing. I mean, she in no way is like doing what Kratz is doing. She's trying to shake the tree. She's so it's a different aspect. And people, you know, they slammed her for, you know, tweeting a lot of things out on Twitter. But I don't. I think that what she's trying to do is a different approach to what, say, you know, we know that this very thing that Kratz did on March 2nd, 2006, had the full blessing, had to have the full blessing of the AG because Fallon was there. He's an AAG. He was the power on that freaking team. Everybody knows that. Don't tell me that he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what was going to happen. No way. He had to know.
No, of course he knew. He read it before he. Yeah.
And I mean, we must say as well. I mean, we are hounding the media a lot, but the fuckers deserve it. And Mazza was sorry. I need to stop swearing. They deserve it, in my opinion. But there is good reporters out there. But what needs to happen is these good reporters need to start looking at these cases properly, especially when it comes to the wrongful conviction side of things. And it actually starts proving that there is actual DNA evidence out there to prove them innocent. Or that the media that they've been watching, surely these journalists are saying, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's these journalists that need to start coming forward. And it's these journalists that needs to start calling out the rest of their colleagues who are just spewing a load of crap just to sell papers.
Think about this for a second. Right before the sexting scandal hit for Kratz back in 2010, think about what Ryan Foley did. For those of you, I think everyone's heard that interview that, you know, he approached Kratz for a statement. And what did he tried to get him to talk about, you know, what happened. And then of course, what does Kratz do? He blows up and he blames everyone else for his problems.
Oh yeah.
That he created
Kratz lost his shit in that interview. It was hysterical.
It was.
I thought he was going to hit Ryan. I really did. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, shit, he's gonna attack him. At least Ryan did make an attempt, you know, to talk to him directly before he released the story.
I love how Kratz always, whenever he says, you know, that he texted this girl, it was like I was looking for contact with her after the case was over. It's like, he's so full of shit.
Yeah, he is.
It's still, even so, it's still unethical.
Yeah, that's not news. That's right, Cherie. That's what he said. You're being used. You're being used. Well.
But that's, I mean, there was one I know that he got asked about the fingerprints or something like that. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I haven't got the file in front of me. Well, you're supposed to know the case inside out, you div. You know what I mean? But yet, you can't turn around and say, oh, aye, there was definitely fingerprints there. Are you kidding me?
Talk about a tosser, Alice. That was a real tosser.
Exactly, Jax. Exactly.
Well, I what about these fingerprints? Well, I don't have the case file in front of me. I can't say. Well, of course you can. he knew.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
it's
you know,
so obvious when he's, a deer in the headlights, taken off guard by something.
like he got caught off guard at trial when Buting was demanding
Exactly.
to, he looked at, well, if the defense is going to now say that Teresa was alive, of course, I can't do the really high voice, but it was alive, at this time, change their tactic, whether that's not what he said at all.
Not a bit. And it was so obvious that he was just scrambling for something to say. Like,
Absolutely.
oh my God, how am I gonna distract from this very important point here?
Of course, Willis saved his ass, but that's a different
Yeah.
conversation. But the media to me is it is an important function in our society, but at the same time, this just reporting whatever that can damage someone for life, and a lot of times, in many people's lives, have been completely just trashed, even years after they can't get out of it.
They just want juice. They just want to sell papers.
That's right.
Or
I just wish
viewers.
that when they find things out, I mean, they're quick enough at reporting about it and having it on the news daily, in the paper, daily, front page spread, second page, third page, maybe even center page, when the shit's hitting the fan. But when that's getting found out that the DA was corrupt, the police were corrupt, the evidence doesn't fit the so-called facts that the jury convicted on, they didn't jump on the bandwagon when it comes to that. And that's what they need to start doing, Mary. They need to start opening their bloody eyes. As I says, they were quick enough at reporting it when the accusations were flying and when the trials were happening and the convictions were happening, but they're not as quick to report it when it's a wrongdoing, when the person spent 20, 30 years in the jail for something that they haven't done, and they're getting released because the DA kept stuff for them, or reports weren't held, or CDs were held for 12 years and boots and things like that. You know what I mean? They get maybe a column or a bit in the back page or something like that. No, that should be front page, second page, third page, center page, whatever is your main pages of your newspaper, just as much as the accusations report and everything like that. As
right.
In my opinion,
Well, moving forward to, I'm sure, the five of us can't really change anything, but, for me, and I think probably for a lot of people, they just can't stand the main channels that report this 24-hour news cycle. Now, it's not to say that I wouldn't watch one of the main, news things, or at least watch it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily believe it now. In fact, I probably won't believe it until I look at other sources. If it's something that interests me, I'm going to go look. I'm going to go look at other places to see if what they've said really lines up with what this says and what this says. I would rather hear from someone on the ground now. Trust a well-known news anchor that they're trying to sell a paper or a broadcast. This brings up another point, and this is the fact that we know, and this is bad. This is really bad. These law enforcement agencies, and I don't care if it's a local, state, or a federal agency, they know that they can use the media. They're good or bad intent.
Yeah.
Just like they can use a crime lab, right? This connection, and these news organizations, they understand, if they alienate their contact within a department, they may not get the first dibs on the story. And so this creates a bias. It just feeds itself. It's crazy. It's just absolutely insane.
It's like the crickets on Henderson. I mean, it goes both ways.
That's right.
Yeah.
They won't report.
Right.
That tells a story in itself to me that, someone behind whoever owns that station, is, maybe under the gun that says, you're not putting that on the air. You're not doing it.
Right.
So that creates a problem for a reporter that's, maybe worked their ass off to get factual evidence. They have the proof, but because of whoever may own that station doesn't want it out there, that's their call. I think that creates another problem that has to be addressed in whatever capacity, whatever way.
Yep, it sure does. It sure does. And maybe the people here and over there, maybe we just need to try and make enough noise, and hopefully they bloody listen.
Well, hopefully, at some point somebody's going to champion this that has the authority to, I don't know about the FCC regulations. I know that they were altered back in the 80s for whatever reason. I can't speak to exactly what was altered, but I know some things were changed, to allow more of this type of rag type reporting that's unsourced or maybe sourced one time from a biased side of things. You just have to think to yourself, are they really okay with that? Or do they think that the industry will, challenge itself and always get the things correct? No, they don't. So.
No, but the stuff that I know everybody's perfect, but they need to get their information a lot better. They shouldn't just get it, oh, so-and-so told me, because so-and-so told me. If so-and-so said that, then try and back that up with facts. Don't just put it out there willy-nilly, which I feel a lot of them do anyway. They just, if somebody's under suspicion or something like that, instead of just saying, oh, someone has been questioned, or, the police are interested in someone, they just plaster the names out there. And I don't think that should be allowed. And I think whoever's name is put out there should be entitled, if it proves that they had nothing to do with it and they were completely innocent, they should be entitled to sue that paper, because it was them that put their name out there in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. There's got to be some sort of
safeguards
or cure or
a remedy or something.
Yeah, thank you. Richard Jewell just lived through hell after that, and his mother. Even after he was cleared, it took a long time for him to get past that. And, I'm sure there's still people that think he was involved. Some people just never give up,
No.
Never give up their
and
conclusions.
And that's it, Susan. You're absolutely right. That man's life was destroyed because they put his name out there. And then they can just sit back nonchalant and say, oh, well, it wasn't our fault because he was a suspect. No, you didn't need to put his name there. You could have just said, 30-odd-year-old man has been taken for questioning. That's
Exactly.
it. Leave it at that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Don't go, oh, he's this height, he's this weight, he's this area, because people can put two and two together, and if somebody's not been seen for a wee while or a few hours, you know what neighbours are like. They're nosy as hell, because I'm one of them.
Well, what was so explosive about that story no pun intended, was that he was first hailed as the hero, which he was, but he was, in the press a lot and being called a hero in the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, he's put up as a suspect. So hero
because of that FBI agent.
Yeah.
What he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's explosive news. They just jump all over that. And
yeah. But I mean, remember the same thing happened with Stephen and all. Because when Stephen was exonerated and found innocent by DNA, the whole town was like, "Oh, poor Stephen! I didn't believe he done it in the first place," and everything like that. But then when he got accused of this, Teresa's, some of them were saying that he wasn't, that they didn't believe it, and everything like that. And then comes the press conference for cracks. And then everybody in the tune's like, "Oh, no, why? Well, and it's like, really? Make up your bloody mind."
If Jenny Liggins if Daniel had been put up on charges only against Janie Liggins and they hadn't pulled all these other women out of the woodwork, think how different everything would have been.
Yep.
We probably wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be here. Yeah.
Magnolia Studio said something. I'm sorry, Rhonda. They said that in today's social media, we the people are just as responsible as the media is. Many turn to discussion groups and YouTube before watching or reading the news. That's true. That's very true. The problem for me that I see comes in is like, I used to be, many years ago, being much younger, I was constantly working, busy. I just didn't really have time to really dig into a news story, something that interested me. So I read a headline and half the story, and I'm like hell. Like I've told Rhonda many times, I saw the headline for Daniel, and cop convicted of rape, sentenced to 200 million years in prison. I'm like, yeah, man, they got a cop off the street. He was a rapist. That's what I thought.
And Kay says they never would have charged him, but even if they had charged him, even if they had charged him, it would not have exploded across the world. And I seriously doubt he would have been convicted.
I agree.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, every time I turn on my TV, I mean, the only like American sort of channel I can get over here is CNN. But when I'm turning it over, that's all you're seeing is bad media. There isn't anything good like cop saves young child from burning building or something like that. That'll have a 2-minute segment. Oh, cop from Wyoming and wherever saved child from fire, and that's about it. You know what I mean? They need to start doing more truthful and accurate reporting. But then again, that's not going to sell papers, is it?
That's right. Yeah, Neverly's correct. Yes, I do remember them passing some kind of the statute or regulation, whatever, that California decided there's a felony for DAs to suppress evidence from the defense. Yeah, I think they can get in some like real trouble now if that's found out. If they committed a Brady and don't turn over. Prosecutors they get. They usually get a lot more information than the defense attorney does, and so they're the ones that can just kind of sit back under most rules now and say, well, this is relevant. Oh, this is not. And this is relevant. This is not. And they get to make the decision. And, that's often to their benefit and to the state's demise. So, or the defense's demise. So, yeah, I think they did pass that. And Colorado, and I think it was New Mexico, have also passed regulation that for qualified immunity is not allowed against a policeman now. So if they screw up to a degree, they can be held civilly and criminally accountable.
And that's the way it should be. A lot of the states and things like that needs to take note of that, because there isn't any deterrent for them. People can say, oh, they're corrupt and everything like that, but because there isn't a legal or a federal thing that says if you hide, I mean, the weirdest thing that I think is bonkers about your system is what you were saying there, Jack, about how the state can get more information than what the defence can during a criminal trial. But if you do a lawsuit, the lawyers who are doing the lawsuit can even get more information than what your defence lawyers have. Have I
That's
got
right.
that right?
Yeah. Well, generally during a civil litigation, a lot of times there's depositions like we've seen with the 2005 case. I mean, the 1985 case, there was depositions, many of them. So the civil attorneys were able to elicit answers from these people versus the answers that they gave state investigators. It really revealed a lot of crap and stuff that they were like, oh, that doesn't sound like what I wrote. That's not my verbiage and shit like that. They're trying to run away from what they actually told the investigators. So yeah, they can get more information. The problem, for when a prosecutor, if he's decided to try a case, so many of our cases, we get into plea bargains now, and I have a real issue with plea bargains because it's, I don't know what, I can't remember the number. What is it, Rhonda? Is it like 96% of all cases are settled by plea bargain? Something like that.
do not remember the stat, but I think Cherie
Yeah.
has it.
It's high like that. It's
Really high.
Yeah.
So, prosecutor, they're allowed so much leeway in the system, and it's not really equal in any capacity in my thinking. Now, there are good prosecutors out there that are fair, and I think they try to do the best they can. We have to remember, a prosecutor, again, this goes back into how the system is set up. If they don't win cases or they decide not to prosecute a case that may be kind of important to somebody that's wealthy, they can go after them, in the press and by other means. Again, we're back into the media of what gets reported to people. So it creates this vicious cycle for them. So they have to battle not only the case itself, but then they have to look at the ramifications of what they do and what they don't do as far as a legal thing. So, but for a prosecutor to have complete authority over what investigators bring to them, I think that's wrong. That has to be challenged by some other means to say, you really need to turn all of it over to the defense. And if they choose on their own to go after it, that's on them. But to do it because they don't want to let the defense have it because it could damage their case, like the LACD, that's in the Fassbender held onto it.
Yeah.
That just creates a huge problem.
Yep. It sure does. And I mean, the fact and all that your judges and that even the DA or whatever, or even a police officer, that they can, if they've got thingy with misconduct, they can retire rather than get sacked, and they can still keep their benefits and everything like that. That is just loopy-loo to me, because take Henderson for instance. He's been accused of sexual nature things with young lawyers and things like that, and he's retired, but he can still keep his pension and everything like that. No, he should be stripped. Anything like that, if it's due to anything with misconduct or sexual allegations or anything like that, he shouldn't have the privilege of
Well, I
being
think that,
able to leave.
I agree. If those allegations can be backed up and proven, I'm going to say innocent until proven guilty. At the same
Yeah.
time, it needs to be investigated.
Yes,
And if
it
it's found,
does.
and if it's found that he did break his, he did these things, I agree. You're fucking fired. You lose your benefits. You're done because
Yeah.
you've taken advantage of your position as judge. It's a great responsibility, and you just screwed it up.
Yep.
And from what it sounds like, it was everybody knew this was going on in those offices.
Yep.
So, why isn't this guy being charged? I want to know.
Well, that's going to take it's going to take somebody that's investigated and willing to get it out there.
Well, how much investigation did they do on Stephen before they charged him?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Brendan.
Oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's so much wrong there that I just, I'm sure that each of us sees it a little bit different than, I'm sure we see it completely different than what, the state enablers and the state apologists see. That I've had so many arguments with them, about that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. The guilters just blow my mind because they always come back to the same things. They can't come up with something new. And I've not been on Reddit lately to even find out what they've been saying about KZ's motion, to be honest.
It's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same old arguments. Alice,
Oh God!
you haven't missed anything. They're just new people that are making the same comments.
Oh God!
Or new
Right.
sock accounts or whatever.
Well, you guys, you have conducted a great discussion, and you can talk about so many things and still stay on topic with the media because it's such a huge impact. But before too many people start taking off, I wanted to first of all thank everybody on the panel: Alice, Susan, Jack, Cherie, all of you, everyone. Thank you so much, everybody in chat, everyone, for your comments and questions. It's been great. Like I said, a great discussion. Before I go, I wanted to make sure that I've been trying to get Daniel's Truth Discord up there as often as I can, because the really simple thing to do to win one of the masks is if you haven't already, join Discord, and if you are there, just go into the room where you can leave letters and notes. I don't remember which room it is. Somebody will have to put it in the chat for me. But if the first 5 people who go in and leave a note or a letter or DM a note or a letter to me to send to Daniel will win the mask. And then I will, let's see, I think probably by Thursday, I should be able to announce when we do our bookcast on Thursday, I should be able to announce the winners. So if you haven't joined our Discord yet, hurry in and get joined. Kat's been dropping the link, join, and if you'd like an opportunity to win one of those masks, then go ahead and leave a letter or a note to Daniel, and I will get that emailed to him ASAP. Any other comments or questions from the chat or on the panel?
Thanks for inviting, Rhonda. Sorry I was late, but I kind of, like I told you, this weekend kind of wrecked me, and I was just dead today. God, I slept. Anyway, much appreciated.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you guys, all of you. All right. Well, if that's in that case, go get in Discord and leave a letter or note for Daniel or DM it to me. and I'll watch the clock. And if somebody happens to do it at the same time, or if it comes down to a tiebreaker, I'll definitely look at the time when it gets submitted to me, and I will announce that on Thursday. Until then, we're going to keep talking about Daniel. I plan to start going over the accusers again next Tuesday. And so I believe we will be going with, starting with Florine Mathis, I think is where we would have left off. So we're looking forward to doing that next week. Thank you, everybody in the panel. Thank you, everybody on chat. Everybody who came Sunday and supported us during our presentation. Thank you so much. And to the new subscribers that we got on Sunday and since then, thank you. Like, share, comment, and let's get as much awareness out there for Daniel as we possibly can. And until next time, peace out.